started. Hi everyone, my name is Julie. I'm the vice president. President Matthew Northway is out of town, so I will be taking his spot for now. So next week we are going to have no meeting at ASU, so don't come to this room. There will be nothing going on here. Instead, we're going to be meeting at the Patriotism Rally Against Socialism. It's going to be from 6 to 9 at the Gilbert Civic Center Park. Message the crew chat if you need a ride. I guess we can work that out. The week after that, we're going to have Marissa Hamilton and Reverend Malpin come, both people were there at the, what do you call it? The little incident that we had.
Our press conference.
Yeah, the press conference. And then after that, we're going to have Mark Del Maestro, recommended by Dr. Loftus. And then that'll be the end of the semester for us. Okay, the first person is Jason Zeikowitz.
Like Einstein.
Yeah. He is the president for ASU Citizens Climate Lobby. He does a lot of work for them. He does a lot of nonpartisan carbon pricing policy stuff. Yeah, Jason.
Okay, great. So I have a presentation I can share with you, or I can just log into Gmail.
Sorry, I should have done this
It's
beforehand.
just as a Google slide. I see you guys who do research, just like for my LinkedIn page.
Yeah, that's where I got it from.
There you go. There you go. Everything's public.
Do you just want to sign it in here?
Yeah.
Okay. Here, I'll show you that.
So with finals coming up, a lot of our members are very busy at the end of the year. You guys are more welcome to come at the start of the next semester. We'll have a lot more people available.
You know what? I'm curious. I think the other one has to be signed out. So what I can do, I can just share it, the presentation.
Yeah, share it. We can use it.
Yeah, I wanted to share it with you guys anyway. So.
So how did you get involved with this organization?
Go ahead, put just the email address right there. How to get involved? So in the slides I'll show my adventure of arriving to Arizona and finding a Citizens Climate Lobby. But it's one of the reasons why I'm drawn to it is because it got me involved with politics, but also about forming bipartisanship, about having using climate as a bridge instead of a wedge issue. So I really love that, and just so I love what it's doing, how it's doing it. Pretty much Citizens Climate Lobby. It teaches citizens how to lobby for climate, but you can substitute that for teaching citizens how to lobby for for any other issue you care about, but because the main thing is teaching citizens how to lobby, so it takes the word lobbying, that's not a dirty word. Lobbying is simply persuading a person of power. Thank you. Yeah. Persuading a person of power. So the term lobbying really has a dirty word to it, because you thought of it as lobbying is just corporations making backroom dealing with politicians, and this leads to a lot of cynicism, disenfranchisement, discouragement from being involved with politics. So Citizens Climate Lobby teaches people how to keep their cool, and just about civic engagement. So the back of the shirt, individually we have voices, together we have volume. So I really love that, and that's how I came to really enthusiastic about being involved with it. So we're going to cover, who knows Simon Sinek? Simon Sinek? Mm-hmm. So I heard about him from business. He's a business consultant, and he has a book called Start With Why. And you can just watch the TED Talk. It's an 18-minute TED Talk, and you get the gist of it. But the gist of it is Start With Why is that if you want to give a pitch, you start with why, and then how, and then what. And so that's how I'm framing today's pitch, is why, how, what. An example is Apple. Apple, why? We want to be different. We want to be, have a place for the square pegs and the round holes. We do this through finding the blend of form and function. And we just so happen to make computers. But this is how we can transition to making iPods and iPads and iPhones, as opposed to other companies like Dell. They make computers. So if Dell tries to make a TV, it's like, well, they're a computer brand. So by starting with why, you understand what drives you. So here we're going to start with why, and we're going to make this a dialogue because I don't know how far along you are already about why you care about climate, how you should care about climate, and what you can do about care about climate. So we're going to make this a dialogue. First, me, why I care about climate. So Jason Zeikowitz is my name. My pseudonym is Science Sci, the Flavor Flav of climate change, the Bill Nye of Brilliant Rhymes, the Weird Al Yankovic of climate activist, Jason Science Sci Zeikowitz. And so Science Sci is my handle on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And as an example, to warm things up, I'll give you a little a song, actually, because I'm not using this for PowerPoint. I can go ahead and use this for the beat. All right, CCL, let's kick it. Ice, ice, water. Ice, ice, water. All right, stop. Glacier caps are melting from the top of my lungs. I feel like yelling, lobby, but not at all violently. Anything less than civility's a felony. Do you want to talk? I really hope so. We can sequester the carbon to soil below. Don't take the carbon if you don't want to have it. Earth is a spaceship and we are the captain planet. Let's lobby the government. Tell them their constituents demand protection. GG's, bring on the heat. I practice my flow for the rising seas. From trees to reefs, how will the climate change be the start of the end of your days? This is the problem. CCL will solve it. We are the people. Love and knowledge. Ice, ice, water. Thank you. So yeah, I love I love writing. That's how actually I thought of the phrases on the shirt. Art, I love it because it heals and it reveals. And so yeah, there's me. And how am I so? Why am I so motivated to do this art? Okay, so this is my story. I originally started as a teacher in Florida, and I went to China to teach English as a foreign language, had an opportunity to do that. Wound up loving it. I wound up meeting my wife there in China, and by experiencing the air quality in Beijing made me want to study sustainability. So then I came to Arizona, not thinking that Arizona had hazardous air quality. Florida actually has the best in the country, and it's not something I considered before. I've never been an environmentalist, especially from Florida. There's a lot of bugs there in Florida, so I never really like to go outside much. I'm more of a futurist. I really love like the monorail system in Disney World. That really inspired me. And so I learned about different solutions with sustainability. I love it because it's something you're running to as well as something you're running from. And we'll go more into sustainability practices as well, what I've learned here from ASU later in the presentation. But CCL, I got involved with them because they taught me how politics are essential. You can be an individual, having a reusable water bottle and riding your bike, walking, but those are just, they won't even scratch the surface as far as actually making an impact. And the way I see it, they're actually more of they make an impact in being a transformational stage for identifying a problem. So shorter showers won't save the world, but they're a fresh start. And so from here, what we're going to do a little poll right now to see where you lie. Now this is from the Yale Program on Climate Change Communications. They define 6 degrees of 6 attitudes towards climate change. So alarmed. So what we're going to do is just hold up your hands and your fingers. So 5 is alarmed. That's me. As you can see, someone who's not only concerned about climate change, but doing an action about it. So either a personal action, an action as a consumer, or an action as a voter. Okay, doing an action. Concern, you're aware of it, but you don't know what to do, or maybe you just haven't created that will to actually do something, change your habits to do something about it. Cautious, you're aware of it, but you haven't taken too much time about it. Disengage, have no time, can't be bothered. Doubtful, you can't be bothered, but also you're skeptical. You're skeptical that climate change, about facing the climate challenge. And dismissive, don't care. I'm gonna, I'm gonna change my engine to rev up more fossil fuels. So quick poll, where do you stand right here? Just hold like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, all right, so with that, Okay, so this is where things currently lie, is December of 2018. So, right over here, we had a couple people. I didn't see, so I saw a couple doubtfuls, some disengaged, but we see the majority of the general public is right here, alarm and concern. Now I want to show this also because I know this is not a just general survey here on the college Republicans. So where do things stand at the election? Well, we can see the opinion shifted at the right at the time since the election, and this is March 2016, and this is also March 2016. So this is among voters. So right over here, this is if people were dismissive or doubtful, what were the odds that they voted for Trump? If people were alarmed, concerned, what were the odds that they voted for Clinton? So we can see right over here that the cautious people, more cautious people voted for Trump. So they're cautious. They didn't weigh that too much of a decision in their voting habits. So what I think is interesting from this Yale program on climate change communication, it shows just where the general opinion is, but also shows that there are people who are cautious, who do care about climate change and did vote for Trump. So with that, it's not climate is not a partisan issue. Here we have Senator Flake. So hold on, I'm getting to other Republicans too, in case he's not your favorite. But this
anybody's favorite.
No.
Okay, all right, we got more. So here you can pick from one of these. These are 44 Republicans and 44 Democrats, and there's actually 45 right now. It's just not updated. It's continually growing. This is the Bipartisan Climate Solutions Caucus. The first one, the chair, is Carlos Gallego, or not Gallego, I'm sorry, Carlos, I forget his name. Anyway, he's from Miami. So he's a Republican from Miami. There, it's like, yes, we want a conservative approach to the climate challenge, and we're acknowledging the climate challenge. Here in Florida, we are paying our money for draining the streets because we have what's called sunny day flooding in Miami. Who's heard of sunny day flooding? So sunny day flooding means it's a sunny day. There's not there's no rain coming from the sky, but because of high tide and the rising sea level right now in Miami, the streets get flooded. So they're spending millions of dollars lifting up the pavement and draining water out. So this is a huge tax money problem. So to save tax money, they're right now addressing that. So a lot of these are from Florida. But there's even more over here. So over here we have, this is the Gregory Mankiff. So he was the chair of the Council of Economic Advisors under George W. Bush. He's also a professor of economics at Harvard University. And he's one of the people that have been noticed by the Students for Carbon Dividends. Students for Carbon Dividends is bipartisan, but as you can see, they have more Republicans. So because we're going to talk about the carbon dividend approach and how it is a bipartisan strategy that was actually created by Republicans of carbon dividends because it's a market-based solution. So I can be able to give you more information on Students for Carbon Dividends after the speech. But first I want to talk about you guys and where our common values lie, about a conservative, market-based approach, about being able to identify problems. So common values, we want limited national government, and so with that I can understand there may be a concern for hearing climate change is a problem. It might just be like I can understand a concern of that it's you know.
Well, the way
yes,
I look at it is it seems to be like what a lot of rich liberals support, but it hurts poor people the most.
Yes.
Because you're putting increases on fuel consumption, and poor people need that fuel to get to and from work, and they're going to be the most impacted by their pocketbook.
Yes.
And so if you look at the difference between like California and Arizona, they're paying $1.50 more per gas than we are because California is a lot more progressive with their environmentalism and their carbon fuel taxes.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing, though.
Yeah.
They focus on all these solutions that don't actually solve the problem, and in fact, make it worse. All of those wind turbines, they create ultrasonic sound that drives people insane, kills birds. The solar panels have toxic runoff. They're also extremely toxic to build. They require batteries in order to actually be effective. If people wanted to actually solve the problem, thorium nuclear power. Yeah. It's clean, it's efficient. there's a ton of thorium out there. That's what we should be focusing on.
So the solution is publicly funded nuclear power. What's your guys' solution as
nuclear? I used to work at Southwestern Engineering in my youth. We built heat transformer units for nuclear power plants. Nuclear is the safest form of energy you have when you compare it to heat transformers that burn oil to heat it. Because the heat transformer is about 1 inch thick, okay, and it's welded on an automatic welder. It's X-rayed, but it's still what it is. A nuclear power transformer is 6 inches thick, and trust me, those things just don't do what people say they'll do, as permitted by San Clemente and other places we work.
And I don't like subsidizing, the solar industry, but we do subsidize the fossil fuel industry, nuclear. I would rather us pull back from everything.
I
But
don't think we should subsidize anything. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
right.
But the reality too is that to do some of what people want to do, you're telling me, similar to property tax, I'm going to have to pay for something I already own to a government that blows money. California's a good example. The high-speed train. How many billions of dollars did they blow? And everybody, I lived there for years, knew it wouldn't work, and especially if it's a government project. But they spent billions of dollars on a project that would not work. They have wasted billions of dollars of tax money, gas tax money, on things that have nothing to do with roads. So you got politicians blowing money, creating issues that don't exist in a lot of areas to the degree they say they exist. It's not that there isn't something out there, but like, what's that young lady's name from Brooklyn? The world's going to end in 12 years.
Cortez.
The last time I read the Bible, it says no one knows when that's going to happen. So all of these assumptions are pronunciations that aren't true, are what leads a lot of people to not believing it at all.
So as far as the 12 years, it's saying we have to act in 12 years, otherwise it's going to have irreversible damage. We're going to have to act in 12 years before we have irreversible damage. We're going to have to act in 12 years because climate change is the greenhouse gas effect, according to the scientists.
How many scientists?
You can go on 97% of
No,
scientists.
I'm asking you directly. I've watched a lot of this.
Well, before we get into this debate about the science, what I'm here, I'm actually one of the, I thank you for coming up with the question to get me off my monologue, because I did want to make this a dialogue. But I want to back it up with the previous slide where I should have had a dialogue originally. Is when I brought up the poll about your opinions toward climate change, because before we get too much into the weeds about policy, I want to just talk about this right here. I did not see any ones, I did not see any fives, or even fours. Saw 3.
In this room or?
In this room. In this room. As we see, the general public, the majority of people, over 50%, want to do something about climate change, are currently doing something about climate change. So this is the majority of Americans. But over here, this room is not with the majority. So I just want to know of your opinions. Let's just talk about that debate. Why aren't you concerned about climate change?
Well, so let me use Al Gore as an example. Back in, I think, 1999 or 2000, he said that by 2015, polar bears would be extinct because the polar ice caps would be melted.
Okay, so you're skeptical about any reports coming from scientists based off.
I think the projections are faulty. I also think there are also other scientists that disagree with the notion, but they're kind of cherry-picked away. I'm very skeptical because what has been said before, the climate change model predictions, they don't always come into fruition. And I think the alarmism that Cortez is saying that in 5, 10 years, 15 years, the whole world's going to end, I think that's just pushing for politics and a political agenda that's been very harmful for the economy. I care for the environment. I want to preserve the Grand Canyon and spaces in the United States. And the one thing that we should do in looking at that is immigration, because we can't have a population like China and sustain the same kind of standard of living with 1 billion people. So obviously you're going to have to control the population that comes in here. That's the case for harder immigration legislation, but we can't talk about that issue. It's all purely economic, and that's usually strife with a lot of politics behind it.
Okay, all right. So what we're going to do, I'm going to acknowledge that, and first acknowledge that. So you are concerned about climate change, but you're also concerned that the current solutions are not
Painted by politics.
And they're
Not feasible.
Not feasible. They're actually just it's like it's a way to make government bigger.
It's a crisis that they're using to gain votes to elect the politicians.
It's a way to make government have the control in our lives we don't want them to have.
Right. Okay.
Like, similar to China. Right? they control those people's lives from the cradle to the grave.
Right.
We haven't quite got there yet, but we're working our way there.
Right.
Slowly.
Right, so-
I got a question on this thing.
Yes, sir.
Who did the poll?
The Yale Program on Climate Change Communication.
Who?
Yale. Yale
Who
University.
is that?
Yale University.
Yale,
Yeah,
Ivy League.
okay. And I'm gonna, looking at that, I've done a number of polls. You can drive a poll, which people do all the time. And I think one of the reasons, I believe it really isn't quite as high as you think it is there with some people. One of the ways they drive it, or one of the reasons some people are dismissive or doubtful or disengaged about it, is because of all the false information that's been given out there to scare everybody for years that never happened.
Including by NOAA.
Huh?
NOAA went before the congressional, there was some congressional committee, and they had to admit that they doctored their data.
So it seems like what I want to do is, for the sake of time, acknowledge that it seems like there's an overwhelming concern that I had a feeling would be coming. So I have even an animated slide right over here to show it. The big concern we have over here is this. Now, this picture could be subjectively said, this is government, this is tyranny, taking this candy from a baby. And so, but the way liberals would say that is like, hey, this is unrestricted capitalism, just taking the candy from a baby and taking candy from future generations, and just saying, and taking candy from a baby and saying, well, this is my candy, now I can sell it.
That sounds more like socialism.
What? All I'm saying is, so if there's this bad man right here, if there's a baby, I can take this candy from a baby, now it's my candy, and this is my right of might.
That's my point. You're talking about making people pay for something out of money they barely have, and the government's gonna take it from them, and get a solution that no one knows is true. So you're gonna take money from citizens who've worked for it, hand it over to government agencies, like Obama did when he gave that so-called, what was that, First Solar or whatever it was?
Right.
Gave them hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
They went broke.
Right.
So it was our money.
So
Yes, and I don't agree with them giving money to GM.
So it looks like I've acknowledged the pain. I've acknowledged the pain is government taking from people, taking your taxes. I've acknowledged now there's two sides of the same coin, because the one side is like, you can see this is government, this is government, and the other side you can see this is thievery. If we don't have government at all, this is just someone just a random person just taking a candy from a baby.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I think you're dealing with the assumption that no big government means no government at all.
Oh yeah, no.
There's
that's-
such thing
we
as
do have to have a
small
balance. Yeah.
government.
And this
Like,
is, yeah.
let's
And
just
this-
get that straight, because I feel like, I'm not saying you specifically, but like, a lot of people that agree with you, or a lot of, like
All or
people,
nothing.
We
it's
have
like
to have
all
a-
or nothing, and
we-
it's just like, I have to push that on you
we
right
have
now.
to have a balance. We have to have a balance. We can't. There's many wonders of capitalism. That's how it's won the Soviet Union. There's many wonders, advantages of capitalism. That's how we beat the Soviet Union.
That's how we got to the moon.
Is how we got to the
That's
moon.
how we created all these vaccines that cure so many things.
And exactly. And with that, when we put ourselves to a challenge, and that's also how. I just want to, for the fact stating it, when we're scared of a big challenge, the moon landing was a big challenge. At the beginning of the decade, JFK said, we're going to get to the moon. We don't even have the technology to get there, but we're going to do it. Why? There's Sputnik, and there's the wonders of space exploration. So there's something we're running from. We want to make sure that we're not taken advantage by the Russians, and we're something we're running towards. The beauties of space exploration. It's very beautiful, inspiring. So that motivated people to unite, left and the right.
The motivation of fear.
Fear and wonder.
I don't think any
well,
one of
that's
How
us.
old are you?
Well, I wasn't alive during that age, but I know
How old are you?
there was nuclear fallout.
How old are you?
How old do you think I am? Because once I tell you, we can't play the guessing
Late
game.
30s, early 40s?
Yeah, 35.
Okay. I was alive then. I'm telling you, when they were talking about going to the moon, they were also talking about the Russians getting there first, atomic war, get under your desk, fear.
So with that
Drove
fear,
a lot of this.
so did that fear of fear? So right now I'm hearing a fear about climate change action, facing
Well,
the
we were
climate
working on
challenge.
real information then versus what we have now, which is so many scientists saying yes and so many more saying no. There is something going on, but you know what? It's called weather. And this has been going on ever since man's been here.
So okay. Well, so with the climate debate, sustainability 101. How would you define sustainability?
Sustainability in reference to
buzzword.
what?
Sustainability.
So
When I
you-
say sustainability,
you could-
what does that mean?
You could be talking about, financial sustainability. You could be talking about carbon sustainability.
What does financial sustainability mean?
Being able to work, pay off your debts, pay off your expenses, and still have money left over. So
What's the difference between sustainability and maintainability?
Sustainability in what?
Maintainability. That's the way I usually think about it. They're very similar. Maintain just means doing the bare minimum, but you always have to go back to maintain it, to fix it.
If you only maintain, you're gonna end up getting behind.
Sustainability is superior. It's a systemic, it's self-managed and improving. Now, so that's the
So we have
overall,
a
that's how you can
maintained
apply it.
government that's not sustainable.
I'm sorry?
We maintain a government that's not sustainable.
Right, and that's why we need democracy to be able to.
No.
Okay, all right, okay. So sustainability, this is the definition. It's being able to meet the needs of the present without sacrificing the needs of future generations to meet their needs. Okay? Agreement. So that could be financially, that could be environmentally, that could be socially, that could be civically. Being able to meet the needs of the present without sacrificing the ability of future generations to meet their needs.
But there's a difference between a command economy and then also a natural economy too. So I think
Capitalism and socialism.
everyone in the room here would be totally fine if you were to replace fossil fuels with an alternative energy if it was done naturally. If it was a cheaper expense for you to go to a solar powered
If the government
house,
didn't control
I would
it.
do that absolutely.
So-
But it's a difference when you're now subsidizing it or forcing the market to change it, or by making our fossil fuels artificially more expensive to make that change happen.
Okay.
I would rather it happen naturally.
So the
Here's
debate is on.
sustainability. No, I'll tell you, here's sustainability. I designed and built a home up in Montana, all right? I've never been to engineering school. I'm not a carpenter. Up in Idaho, I'm sorry, up in Idaho. But I had enough sense to just things I've learned over the years of the businesses I was in, to tell the contractor how I wanted the house built. So when he got done building my house versus my neighbor's, which was almost the same size, his utility bills were over double mine. And yet my house didn't cost but a couple $1,000s more to build. 6-inch walls, insulated property, foam sprayed, and always hot water system. Instead of a double car garage, I had a double car garage, but I had single doors for each one. So that I didn't have a lot of changing of air. It sounds crazy, but it did work.
Yeah.
And by doing it that way,
Yes.
and making sure other things in the house were done the same way, without the government getting involved at all, I had less than half the utility bill of my neighbor, who did what the contractor told him to do according to code.
So with that, let me just state where the debate is. We're having many debates about the fear of the government getting involved. Let's just first acknowledge the problem of the climate crisis. And I feel that, like, or what I want to just talk about, okay, what's Sustainability 101?
Teddy Roosevelt.
Thank you, Teddy
Which was
Roosevelt.
illegal.
Well, actually, nope, you're wrong.
No, it's illegal.
This is Graham.
No, but Teddy Roosevelt really,
Okay.
let's call it steroids.
So, well, what I brought this up is that how Republicans use the capitalism, how they use the government to surge capitalism. So this right here, President Grant created the national park system because at the time it was for which park is it? It's on the notes of my slide.
One in California for redwoods.
I think so. Yellowstone. I think Yellowstone.
They were trying to
Yellowstone.
preserve the redwood trees because
So-
they were chopped down.
Actually, the time it was made pro-business. The Pacific, the railroad said, "Wow, we want tourists. Let's create a park to make sure we can save this and ask for people to travel out west. Why would they make this death-defying journey? Well, they can be able to see the beauties of nature. So it was, and so at the time, it was just completely pro-business.
But, wait a minute. But what he did was illegal.
Well, but he did it to promote business.
No, it was illegal.
So do you
The
think?
national park system is illegal.
So do you think we should be robbing those trees, robbing from
No,
future
that's not what I
generations?
said.
Should we?
I didn't say a park system is illegal. I said the national park system is illegal. They have no constitutional authority to own land within any state.
So should we be robbing from future generations?
No.
Should we?
Why do you have state government?
Should we be robbing?
It's not the
from
role
future
of the
generations?
national
Why
government.
do
is
you
what he's
have
saying.
state government?
But should we be? I don't care at national level, local level. I'm just saying, should we?
No. You have to care. We're a republic. The federal government is
Okay.
not allowed to own
Okay.
land
All
in
right.
the
So
state.
okay. So it could have been done at the state level. Now, National Forest Service. Who did this?
Should be state forests.
Okay. Should be state forests. but should also be made by a Republican as well, because to be able to encourage business, you shouldn't be robbing from future generations.
Well, Republicans do a lot of stupid things, but that's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
The American Antiquities Act.
The thing is, chasing pro-business is not the core principle of Republicans.
No.
Capitalism is.
Yeah.
Removing government control. It is not about subsidizing all of these businesses, giving them handouts and telling them.
Yeah, but as acknowledged, Republicans aren't saying having no government at all, being able to take your bottle and then seal it on the street.
There
We need
should be no
to have
government at all
laws.
in business.
We need government to have laws. Otherwise, I could
To
just
some
steal that.
degree, yes.
Exactly. Otherwise, I could just steal that
Criminal
backpack. I could
code.
just
Well,
steal
not
from
to the
all of
degree
you
that they
and
want
steal it
them.
on the street. So we need government.
It in criminal
Okay.
code, yes.
So let's define where that line is,
We
because
are the government.
so let's define where that line is. Otherwise, I could just steal from all of you, steal from the street, and sell it on the street without a government.
The
So-
EPA.
Who made that?
Let's just see. Who's
I
that?
actually don't remember who made that.
Thank you, Nixon.
There you go.
Yes, the
I
wonderful
can't
idiot.
remember who did that.
1970, absolutely. So this is how I see it. How I said, what's to stop me from stealing your stuff and selling it on the street? What's to stop a business from selling nature and stealing that from future generations?
States' rights.
Okay, so states' rights. You should. Some people think at the state level, city level, but it should be a government right.
No. In a way, you're right if you understand what government is.
Well, government is run by the people.
Now, government is the people.
Okay. So the land should be protected. I'm not saying who protects it. I'm just saying it should be protected for future generations.
By the people.
Okay, fair enough.
In each state.
Okay, but it should be protected.
I'm not
Otherwise,
saying it should-
okay. All right, so we agree. That's the
some
first for
degree.
the day. Okay, let's shake on that. We agree. We agree. Excellent.
Round of applause.
Okay, who made the U.S. Global Research Change Program? U.S. Global Change Research Program. Nope.
No, that was Al Gore.
George
That was a good
W.
guess, though, because I was
W,
thinking
yes.
that too.
That was not Al Gore.
W, yes. W.
That was the other idiot. Senior.
HW.
HW, yes, HW.
I just
Yeah.
say Bush one.
And that's why we also have
Makes it
national
easy.
climate assessment every
We also
4
gave
years.
us the World Trade Organization and other things. Yeah.
Globalist.
Okay, so how I define sustainability as economically speaking, and environmentally speaking, is that stealing from future generations, you have a linear society and linear economy and circular economy. So linear is take, make, waste. Take, make, waste, meaning you just take natural resources and you dispose of it. Circular means you're just constantly using the same things, and this will protect future generations. We're not needing to take more resources, and we're not just throwing it away in the landfill. Okay, good. See a nod, yes. Now, or at least acknowledging it. All right, stay with me. The reason I put this up here is because how we could think about climate change in any part of the crisis is that it is throwing greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Now, whether you're saying I don't think that's causing a climate crisis in 12 years, it's causing air pollution. It's causing a waste of resources because we're going to constantly have to get more hydrocarbons and then throw those into the atmosphere. So right now, it's actually, if you wanted to make a bottle from recycled plastic, it costs cheaper to make it from virgin petroleum than to use recycled plastic.
Sure it does. Why don't you go back to glass?
Yes. Well, why don't we? This is where we need.
I know why.
Well, guys, it's also cheap. It's expensive to clean glass as well because of many different. There's recycling.
Young man, I used to wash bottles at a dairy when I was a kid.
So I would.
And I was there when they first came out with plastic.
Mhm.
Plastic's not as efficient, it doesn't keep anything as cold.
Mhm.
You actually use more energy keeping a plastic bottle of milk cold as you would glass, because glass makes cold, it holds it, plastic doesn't.
So why don't we? Because here we go. We're on disagreement.
Why don't we? Well, it's really simple, it's a weight thing.
Mm.
The Transportation Department of the federal government decided, and they did. Glass weighs more than plastic.
Mm.
So since you can put more on a truck if it's plastic than glass, you can carry more volume, which meant you would actually, to some degree, save a little money on
Yes.
gas and get more product from point A to point B. So that was the decision. But you also, at one point, had more local dairies
Yes.
than
Yes.
you have today.
Yeah.
That's what this evolved into.
Yeah, local dairy and also local bottlers too. That was something I
Yeah,
experienced when I was in China.
like I said, I worked at a dairy when I was young.
So yeah, in China, like over there, all the glass bottles, you put in
Fertilizer.
yeah, well,
We call them bottle water.
yeah,
I ran the bottle washer, but that's what we did.
So
We
this
got
is-
them back, we put them in, they came out clean, we bottled them, we capped them, the woman took it home, the kids got milk, the bottle came back, but she bought more milk, I washed the bottle, and got, you'd use one bottle back then about 8 times.
Hey, I'd be fine with people delivering milk to me like that. I just like milk, so if I'm allowed to drink milk, I'm good.
Hey, you'd like it better in glass because it's colder.
I'm just this bro right here. This
Make
bro right
America
here.
milking again.
I love
Mama.
this bro.
Huh?
Make America milking again.
This bro.
Hey, I'd like to see glass bottles again for everything,
Dude, I
Okay,
agree.
all right. So
because it's
yes.
made out of sand primarily, and we have a lot of that.
Let's use that.
But
Leave that down.
Can you clarify, first I just want to say, I've been walking for 45 minutes lost trying to find this place, so I apologize that I'm in here so
Welcome,
late.
welcome. You're welcome.
But I did find it, and now I know where it is. Can you
It can be
just clarify
confusing, I
or
get it.
finish what you were saying about China? You just said.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Well, with glass.
Okay, yeah, so, well, I mean, what they do over there is what they used to do over here in the US, and what actually they're currently doing in Mexico as well, is just they have local businesses that sterilize glass bottles and refill them.
Recycle.
Well, not
Reuse
even
them.
recycle them, just refill them. Reuse them, yes, reuse them. And this is great for local businesses. Less resources are having to be extracted and wasted. So it's a circular economy. So it's an example of circular economy, just so we can be able to understand basically how that looks. And now, the reason I'm here, so what I love, what it draws me to climate change is that it's attached to so many problems that are really the main cause. Because we don't have a circular economy, because we have a linear economy, there's many problems with fossil fuels. We're wasting too much. You know, glass comes from sand. It's a lot cleaner. Extracting fossil fuels, we're having to extract them from greater depths and more dangerous forms of extraction, such as tar sands.
Fracking.
Yeah, fracking. Oh my God, yeah. We're supposed to, you know, being able, and then from there we pollute it. We just dispose of it in the atmosphere, and that's a tragedy of the commons, where government, where the people, the common people, have to come together to pay for it in one way or another. Because tragedy of the commons, has anyone heard of that phrase? Yes. So tragedy of the commons, how would you define tragedy of the commons?
Basically, it's people don't take care of public property.
People what?
People don't take care of public property.
They think it's someone else's problem.
People used to take care of this. My generation.
It's a degradation of the culture.
The younger generation, not so much.
Well, yeah.
They're a throwaway society.
Yeah.
Certain businesses and government has turned our society into a throwaway society.
Yeah.
Of both stuff
Yeah.
and people.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
My father's generation didn't,
So,
my generation didn't.
so how can we get this? How can we get on this track of being able to, because right now,
Well, stop allowing the government to, like, when I was a younger person, we had dairies in my community, a number of them, drive-in dairies. Guy owned a dairy, had his cows, bottled the milk right there on the spot, you drove in, you got your milk, you went home, right? And then they
Refrigerated, drink it,
supplied
you're good.
stores. But then they decided, we don't want a smelly dairy in our community, because people, oh my God, it stinks, right? So we're gonna move them all out. So we gotta take the milk from out in Chino now and get it all the way to a big plant in Southgate.
well, they do. I have seen there is a local. They
The one on Broadway.
Yeah, but we're talking,
Well, no, not even
I'm
local.
telling you what LA used to be.
Right.
Back when I grew
But no,
up.
I go to like just a
Dairies, you had
grocery
orange
store.
groves, lemon
I like
groves,
fries and
chicken
Sprouts.
farms in the town.
Or at least Sprouts has it. Sprouts has like
Now
glass
they're all gone.
milk
I'm growing
bottles.
up in
Yeah,
the
there's
generation.
a
In
small
fact, all the
company.
California
Yeah.
guys are now in Arizona.
So, well, there is a small company for milk, but what about? But that's
Okay,
just
maybe
milk.
I'm
What about
gonna say
also
Eggs.
egg crates, returning egg crates? Yeah, I would love to see that. I would love to see just exactly.
See, but people didn't like the smell.
Okay.
Understand?
So, well, right now we do have. But what about for other things such as milk? Besides milk, you know, also the egg crates. I love to see reusing of egg crates, reusing of other bottles. You know, being able to.
Coke bottles used to be bottles.
Coke bottles. So what about the people not like the smell of the Coke factories?
No, they just decided they would, went from, because of the weight again, can, aluminum, weighs less than a bottle, So
I like the
transportation-wise,
Mhm.
transportation-wise, you can put more cans on a truck than you could bottles.
I love the
So-
old Coke bottles.
And it's colder.
They're
You know,
bomb.
and you can still get the bottles.
I think you would agree that the
Yeah.
culture needs to change and that taking a better responsibility for myself, picking my trash up,
Oh, yeah.
not throwing it out the window, that sort of thing, that could definitely help to a point where you and I would definitely agree.
Now,
But government intervention, that's where we're gonna have to defer.
So where I'll play the devil's advocate as a teacher, I am concerned about just relying on morals and relying on individuals to make that choice every time.
Right.
I try to see how we can have systemic solutions.
Morals work really well if they're taught.
Well, but how do we get them taught? Should we
Certainly not through the educational system we have now.
So what's the solution? What's the solution? And the way I see it is that with systemic solutions, you make the greener choice, the cheaper choice, and the easier choice.
Because you still have immoral people legislate then.
Well, that's what. So as far as the legislature,
It's a personal choice.
so carbon fee and dividend. Let's get into. Okay, hang on. Let's see. This is more of the climate scary stuff. And okay. Okay. Okay.
How long do we have?
Well, 12 years to act. Okay.
I want to see you in 12 years.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I have to get back to this point because I still feel like you're losing it. Like you went to this point, you went to the point where what happens when there's no intervention. Small government does not mean no intervention. You know what I'm saying? Like
So
you're
what should the
not
small
you're
government
not
do?
hitting the small government thing. Like you're so stuck on the big government and intervention. The problem is you're not realizing still that no big government does not mean no government at all. It just means smaller government, and even when the government is smaller, less control does not mean
Do it at the
no
local level.
intervention.
No, I'm not
Like
questioning-
you need to address that because you keep giving us solutions for bigger government. You need to realize that not everyone is going to agree with that. So you need to compromise with people to get somewhere.
Yeah.
So what is your compromise for interventions with small government?
So intervention with small government, I think that small government, we should have rights of small government. For instance, City of Tempe tried to pass the plastic bag fee, but the state of Arizona, the city of Tempe tried to have a plastic bag ban. The state of Arizona made a plastic bag ban. So that was big government of Arizona stepping down on the city of Bisbee and the city of Tempe.
Well, the state government in Arizona screwed up anyway.
And this is exactly so big government can suffocate small
Or
government.
lobby businesses to make those decisions unilaterally without the government telling them to do it.
So you need to come up
People can drive
with.
that choice, not the government. Well, not the government as you're explaining government, where it comes from here down, the people can push it up.
Yeah.
But the people have got to remove the idiots that are in government in both parties.
So you need to, compromise and come up with intervention solutions that work with a small government in
Charging
order to
fees
get
isn't good.
Republicans to work with you.
So this solution right here can only be done at the national level because the reason it can't be done at the national level is because how it would work is that it's a carbon fee, but 100% redistributed to households. Now the way this works is that you actually does anyone over here own a private jet? No. So because of that, the mean is not the median as far as what your carbon footprint is. Meaning the average is skewed way off from what the average person actually does.
Now,
So-
doesn't that make it more of a state issue? Because states do not act the same at all.
So let's see what happens if we play this off the state issue. Yes.
1 minute.
Oh.
So, yeah, sorry.
You're saying
I
the
think you
federal
need to-
government is the one that's.
Wait.
Okay, wait,
Finish-
guys.
finish
Guys,
your point,
Yes, I have 1 minute. Let's talk about the actual policy. I thank you for having me come out here today to debate. There's many things. What concerns me is that actually with my closing 1 minute, the policy. What I want you to look at is the policy, because what concerns me is that you have such fear of fear, because.
You guys are the ones instilling fear on people.
Well, all right. What I want to come over here and you guys are of the fear. I want to be able to just talk about
Reaction.
solutions, talk about how we can be able to.
See, that's the problem. Why do you do the doom and gloom and instill fear without complementing it with solutions?
This is the solution I
That's
want
not
to
a
get.
solution, that's a fear.
Okay, all right. No,
Yeah.
That's
It's
a
like-
government control, that's what that is.
So this
You
is.
still need to come up with solutions that
Alright,
a
let-
small government could influence. If you want these Republicans here in this room and out there to work with you and agree with you, you're going to have to compromise and try in a small government way.
A mutual compromise that we both like as a
Because
solution.
right now at this point with the big government, you're only appealing to Democrats. That's all you're doing. You're not appealing to us with these big government solutions. You're really not.
All right, I didn't-
You're
I didn't
going
get-
to
I
have to
didn't-
compromise.
I didn't get to explain the solution, but I thank you for having me speak,
Yeah.
and I thank you for a civil
You know.
civil debate. And I'm sorry that I didn't get to go more into the solution. I encourage you to look more into it because what concerns me is that there's many benefits of being able to drive to a circular economy, and how we could be able to do it. And being able to, what I do is I do want to acknowledge your concerns. I want to be able to hear your concerns instead of steamrolling over.
And we appreciate you
France-
talking to us about this
Yeah,
too.
for-
We don't want to feel like you're being steamrolled or,
Yeah,
argumentative
I don't
and
want- and I
everything.
don't
It's just
steamroll-
constructive
no,
criticism that,
Yeah.
you have to appeal to both sides, not just one.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, like, you've only been appealing to the Democrats with big government, and that's part of your problem.
I didn't even bring up the solution. Steamrolling, I didn't want to bring up if steamroll over yours. I didn't want to steamroll over, but just bring up the solution because France brought up their carbon fee.
Why don't you explain it right now?
Thank you.
Yeah,
France
small
brought up their
government
France
solution.
brought up their carbon fee, and when they brought up their carbon fee, that created riots in France. They all
Yeah.
this protest because people said, "Hey, we're not going to make it to the end of the month."
It hurt the poor.
It could hurt the poor. Thank you. This is what you brought up at the beginning that I wanted to address. We're not the ones responsible. We have a small carbon footprint where our lives are at stake. Why do we have to pay for this tax for public funding projects?
Well, because you're pushing off the prices on the corporations that make the products that the people buy. So you're making it more expensive for them.
So
There
with
is a
that, so
solution to
if
this.
you tax corporations are going to increase their costs,
Right.
that'll be exactly.
The
So-
consumer always pays.
So what I wanted to bring up with sustainability is another thing from school sustainability talks about the triple bottom line. If you only address the environment, even if you use an economic-driven solution, saying we could put a price on carbon so we can help the environment, you don't help the people.
Right.
So sustainability, triple bottom line, people, planet, profit. People, planet, profit. That's the triple bottom line. Yes?
Do you know where people over profit, do you know where that saying comes from?
Marx.
People planet over profits.
No, but I know it doesn't.
If you looked at the Communist Party USA website, that's exactly what's on there.
That's where it came from.
And I just want to point this out because this,
They always do
I
that.
do like having you here, but I just want to say something, and I do want to let you talk, and I know we keep interrupting you, but you're from the Julie Wrigley School of Sustainability?
Yes.
Is that where you're from? You people disgust me.
Oh.
So instead of.
Wait, we gotta
Hold on.
keep it civil, please.
Instead of talking about what they are looking for, these young, intelligent people, your school is showing movies on Angela Davis. Do you know who Angela Davis was?
We can't get it.
Wait,
We can talk about this later. I'll talk about this later.
That's what
Later, I'll be more than happy.
We're running out of time.
Because of my time. Because of my public time right
It's
now. I'll talk to you later.
It's communism.
Okay, I'll talk to you
It
later.
sounds great.
I'll talk to you later.
It sounds great.
I'll talk to you later.
It sounds
Ma'am,
wonderful.
ma'am,
Young
ma'am,
people
I have to
are going
explain
on
this.
it, but it's
Ma'am.
communist.
Shut it
And you're
down.
getting upset because
Shut
you
it
know
down.
it's true.
Ma'am, I'll talk to you later.
You know it's true.
She's giving me this
Hey,
time right now in front of
let's be
everyone. You're
civil,
ruining it.
everyone.
I'm being civil, but it's communism.
Ma'am, I'll talk to you later. I'll talk to you later. I promise I will. I promise
We can
I
have a
will.
conversation about
Jason,
this, but-
Jason,
Yeah,
I'm
we can
gonna
have this
leave
afterwards,
Okay.
we're running out of time.
Okay, so with the People Planet Profit, being able to make sure we can be able to put a price on carbon, give the money to the people so that you make the greener choice the cheaper choice. That's in essence how it can work. And because none of you own private jets, people who you're going to have increased incomes by receiving a carbon dividend. So that's what's called the Energy Innovation and
Where's the
Carbon
dividend coming from?
The dividend comes by putting a price on carbon at the source of emission. Or a source
Who pays the
Let's
price?
just let him finish because we're coming towards the end.
So at the source of extraction, you're going to, so when fossil fuels are extracted from the ground, you put a price on fossil fuels at the source of extraction. It's redistributed to households as a dividend. And then because this is why it has to be done at the national level, because you're able to then say, well, hey, China, you don't have a carbon fee. Your prices are now cheaper. We're going to put a fee on your products as a tariff and keep the money. Or, I know, I triggered a bit wrong. So unless you put your own price on carbon. Now here's the thing. We can talk about climate change and all that stuff about what we don't want to do. Canada is right now looking to put this border adjustment tariff on there. So if they're right now one of our biggest trade partners. And if we want our prices to stay competitive, we have to think about how we're also putting our own price on carbon. So this is that they're going to be the domino that trips the whole country up. And we have to be thinking about these global dynamics. So this is the carbon fee dividend that takes the price, redistributes it to the household so that as costs increase, incomes will increase. In fact, everyone here will have a higher income because, like I said, the average is not the average consumer's carbon footprint. So because of that, you can go about your life, you can do the same thing, but on the pie chart of your budget, you're going to see, wow, if I'm more conservative with my gas, with my lights, I can save more money. And that's what happens. Your income will increase, the prices will increase, but your income will increase. And if you are more conservative, you could save even more money. So instead of saying, hey, hey kids, if you turn off the computer at nighttime, this will save me a few bucks and I'll take you out to ice cream. You can say, we can go take a trip to the Grand Canyon. You know, we can be able to save more money by being more conservative with money. So, and this will be able to create more incentives to have local factories, you know, create circular economics by putting its price on carbon. It's a way to transition the economy. Yeah, there's only one Republican on here right now, but there's more expected to join. And let's see, as far as more people into it is the Students for Carbon Dividend. I would look them up as far as why these Republicans who have more common values with you. You know, I won't lie at all. I was raised in a Democratic household. My brother is Republican, so we have great debates. I don't know when he switched, but as far as if you want to talk to people with more aligned conservative ideals, I encourage you to talk to the Students for Carbon Dividends, to talk to the Students for Carbon Dividends. I encourage you to reach out to them or these other college Republicans group. My time here is done, but to keep this debate going, for your curiosity, see what's going on, I encourage you to talk to more of these groups. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey.
That was fun. Actually, enjoyed that.
I like your opening.
You might want to look at the fair tax, okay? If you study the fair tax, it's kind of what you're talking about.
Okay.
But it eliminates all taxes on everything. Everything until it's sold.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking
Great
about.
plan.
So
Anyway, for those of you who don't know, my name is Clair Van Steenwyk, better known in Arizona as Van the Radio Man. I'm a retired businessman. I started working when I was 9 years old, selling, or actually distributing things like that, door to door, for a furniture store to make 35 cents an hour. I worked my way up to shining shoes, washing dishes, mopping floors, washing bottles at a dairy, bottling milk, washing out tankers, working in Southwestern Engineering, United Concrete and Pipe, Myers Engineering, Reams, who made water heaters and
okay, I think here's the
ammunition
better
cartridges.
question. Is there something that you haven't done?
Not very much.
I was
'cause
like, let's shorten
kinda-
the list. Is there something you haven't
Hey, I was a
done?
milkman once, okay?
Okay, I don't think
Yeah.
there's anything you haven't done.
I had clients like Stallone, Carol Burnett, Gregory Peck, and I talked to a lot of them. Anyway, I ran 5 companies of my own. A marketing distribution company, a property management company. I ran an antique business with my wife, both a hard store and an internet business. I did a consulting company, and then I got into media, accidentally actually. After I retired, I was teaching a class somewhat like this, and a young man stood up and said, "You ought to be on the radio." And I just looked at him and said, okay, because he raised his hand and I called on him. And then he sat down. And then I was teaching a little more, and then he raised his hand again. So I thought, question, right, because I wasn't really thinking about it. He did the same thing again. But then he did it a third time. And the third time I told him, look, I'll tell you what I'll do for you. You get me an interview to be on the radio and I'll go. But I want to finish this class sometime today so that somebody learns something. And so no more interruptions on that subject. The next day he showed up at my front door. He had an interview for me at a radio station in LA. I went to the radio station, interviewed, and got the job. Don't ask me why, but I did. So I went on radio back in 2003, I think it was, and stayed on until around 2015 here in Phoenix. We were a statewide, actually national, because of the internet and all the rest of it. And I've been politically active since I was 9. I worked on Dwight David Eisenhower's campaign.
At 9?
At 9.
What did you do at 9
I took
years
little
old?
handbooks that
Just
look
out of
similar
curiosity.
to, they look similar to this, to a U.S. Constitution.
Okay,
They were
like
called
those.
president's books. You can
Okay.
find them online, actually.
Okay.
And it had all the president's pictures in the front and the back and give you some information about
So what did you do?
it.
Like
I
help
took those
just
door to door
Okay.
on my bicycle. At first, they thought I was crazy, and they gave me like 20 of them because they thought I was going to burn them, I guess, I don't know. And then I went back, and they gave me more, and then they gave me a box of them, and then a couple boxes, and I just kept doing it. So I've been kind of politically active ever since
I feel like I
then.
would take it because I think it would be adorable and like awesome. That
I actually have
9-year-old
my,
was in
I actually
politics. I
have
would
one of them.
take
My
some.
mother saved one of them, and my wife found it in a drawer at her house, and we have it.
Don't let go of that.
Yeah,
Like,
but
A wife would do that.
I am a Republican, but I'm not a normal one. I'm a constitutional Republican. In fact, I'm a Christian constitutional Republican. I base what I do on my Christian beliefs. I'm one of those crazy people that believes, biblically speaking, it teaches us that God is good, and all good things come from God. Now, some people don't believe that. They don't even believe in God. Well, my premise is if all good things come from God, then all bad things come from the other side. I believe when anybody infringes on my rights, or wants to subvert my rights, or take them away from me, that's evil. So I don't believe we have a right or a left in this country. I really don't. I know they break it down that way. You're either a liberal or a Republican or a right-winger or a left-winger.
centrist, whatever.
If you're messing with my rights, you're just evil. I don't care whether you have an R or a D or an L or an I behind your name, you are evil to me. Evil. And I've called a number of people in this state that on my radio show when I interviewed them. Because the thing I found out about most radio people, our TV interviewers, is they don't know a damn thing about the people they're talking to. They have a little notebook in front of them made by a director or a writer or a producer telling them what to ask this person and then go to the next question. So when the person out and out lies to them, they don't know they've been lied to. So then they'll go to the next question. And for me, when I'm sitting watching this, it drives me crazy. Because I'll look at Hannity and I'll think, okay, ask him this now. And he'll go, well, thank you, and smile. And I'm thinking, what? What did you just do? Like H.W. Bush was a left-wing Republican. Big business, World Trade Organization, didn't really care about a whole lot of us, and he didn't. His son was no different. I voted for George the first time, didn't vote for him the second time. George the second, I voted for him once, didn't vote for him the second time. Never voted for John McCain, never would. Never voted for Jeff Flake. I didn't vote for Ducey, because he's a John McCain flunky. It's really very simple. Some of you may have volunteered. I don't know if any of you ever volunteered on a campaign?
Never had the opportunity to.
And you?
Yeah.
Where?
I
Here?
worked on Rand Paul's campaign in Iowa.
That's okay. That's fine. I was thinking maybe, God, I was hoping you didn't volunteer for some of these idiots we have here.
It's interesting that I work on the University of Iowa out there.
I was born in Iowa. And I'm going to just say something just so you understand something. The best government is local. If you don't believe that, go to Iowa. Go to some smaller towns of 5 and 8 and 10,000 people. See how well they're run and how clean they are. No, how well, in Colorado's probably got a few too. How well they're run and how clean they are. How the people that live in those communities take civic pride where they live. And they teach their children to do the same thing. Those are the values America's lost. And they've lost those values due to bad policies and big government. And due to our education system, quite frankly, doesn't educate our children anymore. It indoctrinates them. Yes.
Okay, I'm just gonna solidify that. Okay, so just to get the disclaimer out of the way, I did grow up in California, like a progressive state. I did, I'm not denying that.
It's a social state now,
But,
dear.
or socialist, yeah. I was, but
Don't compliment it.
but I lived in one of the smaller towns because I grew up. I'm gonna say it was 30 minutes south of San Luis Obispo.
Okay.
Just because
I know the area.
Napomo. I don't know if you know that.
I know.
small.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always just say like 30 minutes from the direction because hardly anyone hears of
Okay.
Napomo.
Well, I was born in Orange City, Iowa,
Yeah.
but I was raised in Bellflower, California.
Oh, okay.
I spent my
Yeah.
whole life in California.
And like even though like back then it was just a Democrat.
When I was growing up, it was a great place to live.
Yeah. Back then.
Streets were clean, cows
Yeah.
smelled okay, chicken ranches were
Yeah.
in our communities.
Right.
I bottled milk. That's how California
back-
used to be.
And back when
Orange groves, lemon groves.
And back when I grew up there, just as a kid, the younger kid and older kid, even though it was Democrat then,
Yeah.
like the smaller towns were still exactly like
Well,
you're
Democrats weren't
describing.
crazy then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the smaller towns were like you were describing.
They were
back then.
semi-liberal, but they weren't
Right.
socialist,
Right,
even though FDR was.
right, and
he
so
was.
it was.
Social Security was not for us.
Yeah, so it was
It's
just
a
like.
Ponzi scheme for the government, basically. Yes, dear.
Just a random question. So I'm from Anaheim,
Pardon me?
Anaheim, California, like
Yeah.
Orange County. Did they call Orange County?
Because of the orange
Yeah,
groves.
okay.
Yeah.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
You know the Ralph's Markets in
Yeah.
Southern California?
Yeah.
They were one of my clients. Not bad for a person that just finished high school. Every major grocery chain in California was a customer of mine.
That's legit.
And Walmart, and Costco, and Sam's Clubs. These are the people that trusted me to advise them on certain things. You know how stores are set up? What they call them schematics?
Yeah.
I did that.
Nice.
You know who created buy one, get one free?
I love
I did
you.
that. You
For
know
the
why?
buy one get one
No, I'll
free.
tell you why we
I
did
love
it.
you so
Somebody
much.
pushed the wrong button at a meat factory, and instead of producing 12 loads of hot dogs on semis, they produced 24 loads. We never sold 24 loads. So how are we going to do this when we were giving half off? So I said, well, we'll do buy one, get one free, right?
I love
And the
you
guy
so
goes, that's the same damn thing. I said, no, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. I said, people are going to think it's free.
I love you so much.
They're not
for
going to
that.
understand a dollar is 50 cents off. They're going to understand a dollar, the other one's nothing. And we had people, housewives, and everybody walked in the grocery stores and bought 12 and 15 cases at a time, not 2 or 3 packages. And they said, why are you buying so many to this one lady? She says, this is cheaper than dog food. I didn't care why they bought it. I just want, that's called, what is that called? What kind of business is that called? Free enterprise. That's what it's called.
Buy one get one free has saved me money and has made me a very happy person.
And I couldn't
Thank
even patent the
you.
damn idea.
Thank what?
If I could, I'd be a billionaire.
What? You should have patented that thing.
But the point is this. The point is still, I do notes, but I don't do them well.
This bro.
In this room, I'm curious, how many of you people believe in the national popular vote? Raise your hands.
Ooh.
Well, that figures you're from Colorado. Okay, yeah. Well, let me tell you something. You have 20 legislators in this state, all Republicans that voted for it. And every one of those ding-dongs got reelected in this last cycle, are promoted to either Secretary of State now, she was a senator and supported EE, or they're senators. Republicans. Now, one of those damn fools knew that it violated our constitutional rights.
Or they don't care.
They really don't care. They did what a lobbyist told them to do.
Yeah.
All right? I confronted a couple of them at LD meetings, and they didn't like the confrontation very well, because they sound like a bunch of dips trying to argue with a professor. But how many of you believe we need border security? I'm serious. If you don't raise your hand, I'm going to make fun of you. Okay. Do you believe we need a barrier or just cameras?
I don't know.
One or the other. Which do we need?
Both.
Both. Do you believe we need to continue to give foreign aid to South America, Mexico, and Central America?
Depends.
Raise your hands. How many believe we need to continue to give them money?
So I believe that you don't give them money just for existing. They have to do it under certain
Yeah, but that's not what I'm
conditions.
talking about. How it goes.
No.
Do you believe we need to give them money?
Well, I think it has to be structured because right now we have an immigration crisis. It's
Because they created
well,
it.
actually we created it.
No.
The United States. If you look at the crisis in Puerto Rico, we've been robbing from South America.
They're not swimming over here. They're walking in. No, let me ask you a question though. Let me ask you a question. How many billions of dollars do we send down to those countries?
I feel that originally, how much had they given to
No, that's not what, they haven't given me anything. How much have they cost us?
Dude, answer the question.
Answer the question, don't make
You're-
I'm asking you a
you're
question.
going around the bush.
How many
You're not
billions of
building
dollars have
bridges
we
with
sent down
Republicans if
there
you don't
that's
actually
never come
answer.
back?
So historically, we have taken a lot more from that.
No,
So it's
that's
karma
not
then.
true.
It's karma then. That's what you're saying.
Arizona alone, Arizona, this one state, spends $2.5 billion a year on illegal immigration. Between education, jails, healthcare, welfare, and other things, and no, that does not include any crime other than the people they catch in jail. That doesn't include insurance fraud. It also does not include the lower wages that a lot of people in this state are pressed under because the illegals will paint a house or do gardening cheaper than an American will. It's not that Americans won't garden, but they won't do a job for $5. And it's Americans' fault that want to save money versus do the right thing. But that's a moral problem in this country because America at one time had morals. But at one time it had leaders that had morals. That was a long time ago when I was a kid. That hasn't happened in generations now. Yes.
I want to make a further point on this. Why is it the government's place to put a gun to your head to say, okay, you give me money to give to these people over here who are not our citizens.
When we already have poverty here too.
Yes, we already have poverty here, we already have our own problems. Why is it the government's role to steal money from me? Because yes, taxation is theft.
Okay.
And give it to other nations.
Yeah, what's so wrong about taking care of our own before
Here-
other nations?
Yeah.
What's so
Well,
wrong with that?
I will say,
You know,
ask
you-
a simple
there's
question.
nothing
I've
wrong
always
with
wondered
that.
Republicans, why are we willing to fund a wall if we are against big government? Why not just cut welfare instead and then they won't come anyway?
Because it won't solve
It's got nothing to do with welfare.
Oh.
You got to understand what this really is. You've got to understand what the real reason they come here is, why they come
Part
here.
of it's welfare.
Now, people say the Democrats want them here to vote. That's true in some states, but not totally. The real reason Democrats want them to come here, even though some of them are too stupid to know it themselves, is if you bring enough people into this country, you culturally will change it. And it's not just from Mexico, Central America, South America, which, by the way, I used to go to Mexico twice a month at my own expense with my wife and some others and bring food down there and clothes and blankets and Bibles. All right? Nobody paid me to do it, and I didn't take an offering. I did fairly well in my business life, so I took the extras I was taught as a child to do and helped other people. I also ran a halfway house in Bellflower and had an outreach on Skid Row and Hollywood Boulevard. And that we funded ourselves and did that for years and enjoyed it enormously. But they want us up here to culturally change this country because down there, those people are brought up, and if you go to Mexico, you know it if you've ever had to deal with the police or the federales. They are prisoners in their own country. You see, there's a right we have they don't have. It's called the Second Amendment. They don't have the right to bear arms unless it's bear arms. When they fight a cop or a federale, they have to do it with their hands. They have no guns unless they're illegally gotten, which we know Obama did a real good job of that. So that's one of the reasons they come up here. And the same is honestly happening from Europeans that come here, because they are culturally brought up in socialist countries. I've had a few of them tell me, and you know they're from Europe when I'm talking to them, and they say, well, I really don't like the Second Amendment because it makes me afraid to know people could have guns. And I said, do you know why we were given the Second Amendment here? And they go, well, I said, do you think it was so we could go hunting and target shoot? Well, yeah. I said, no, we were given it to protect ourselves from our own government and from invasion. That's why our founders gave us, or they didn't, as it states very clearly, our rights were granted to us by God, not by man. So the only one that can ever take them away from me is God, not man, not the government, not the mayor, not the president, whether it's Trump or Obama or Bush or some other idiot. Can't do it. That's what we need to understand. But understand the billions of dollars that pour out of here every year go to Mexico, South America, and Central America, and they're not sent there by our U.S. government. They're sent there by illegals that are here. They get Western Union money orders, and they send it south. And we're talking hundreds of billions. Get on Highway 10 some weekend, and you'll see trucks, pickup trucks with trailers loaded with American goods. And guess where they're going? South. And they're American citizens who have stores in Mexico. and they take stuff down there to do business down there. They don't do business up here. They go down there. But all this money that's drained out of this country never comes back. But those countries, El Salvador, Mexico, Guatemala, get all this money back there for their citizens from their families that are up here. That's foreign aid for them. They don't want to stop the influx of their people up here because they need that money, because most of those governments, quite frankly, are crooked. More or less than ours, but they're crooked. We need to understand why this happens before we can fix it.
And throwing money at a problem in a country
Never fixes it.
that just gives them more money to continue the problem. There has to be a financial and accountability solution.
Yeah, no, most Hispanics are actually conservative because they come from social.
Pardon me?
Socially.
Well, they are socially, economically conservative.
Who?
And even religiously conservative.
Who?
Hispanics.
No. Hispanics aren't socially conservative. A lot of them are not. And
Generally wise.
the Catholic Church, by definition, is now run by a socialist pope. He has stated very clearly, we don't need borders anywhere. We should have mass migration around the world. If you don't have a border, you don't have a country. Let me ask you a question. You live in a house?
Yes. No, actually multifamily.
Pardon me?
It's a multifamily home. I'm not.
But you have walls.
Yes.
Why?
For the shade.
Keep the bugs out?
It's for the shade. Is the same.
You have a front door.
Yes.
Why?
For the shade.
Yeah, right.
It's the same.
I'll tell you something, being from LA, I got robbed twice by illegals. If I'd have had a gun, I never would have got robbed. I got run into by an illegal in a car. All right, he took off. I know he was illegal because we were in an intersection. I got out, said something to him. I understood what he was saying. The car was full. I pulled in a parking lot and he zoomed away. I had to pay the bill. There were all kinds of ancillary costs to illegal immigration. But as young people, you need to understand the real problem in America isn't the illegals. It isn't even really high taxes. It's the out-of-control government we have. And the reasons they find to increase our taxes in so many different ways, through regulations mostly, which are illegal. The EPA passes regulations and fines you, right? Mm-hmm. A fine is a tax. According to the U.S. Constitution, the only one that can tax you is Congress. The Environmental Protection Agency has no constitutional authority to fine you at all, none. So that alone is unconstitutional. It violates our rights. And it shows you how well your congressmen are abiding by their oaths. Our enemy is our own government and the people in it. I'm going to give you a number. How many of you have ever realized how much money it costs to run a campaign? You ever thought about it?
20,000.
Well, I
Oh,
know-
I've thought about it. I've wondered, but I don't know the
Well, I know
number.
I'm going to be running the city of Tempe, and I know I have to raise 40 to be competitive.
40,000.
Running.
Yeah.
Who's running?
I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to show you something, just so you understand something.
Is he running for office?
Yeah,
Yes.
City Council, Tempe.
Yeah.
You're running for city council office in Tempe?
Yes, we start my campaign as soon as they get the paperwork in July, sometime in the summer. How the city feels like it.
She's going to talk about that afterwards.
I
Hold
am-
that thought.
this
Here's
made my
here's
whole
an
night.
example for you.
It made my whole night.
What do you think it would cost to get 30% of the vote for an Arizona Senate seat?
Wait, ask that
To run for
question
the
again.
Arizona Senate,
How
Arizona.
much does it cost?
What would it cost to run, say there's 10 people voting,
Uh-huh.
and well, there's hundreds of thousands, but we'll say
Right,
10.
we'll say- right.
To get 3 of those votes, 30% of, say, 50,000 people, 30%, say that's 15,000 votes. What do you think it would cost a candidate to be able to achieve 30% of the vote?
All right, I'm at 100,000.
Okay, anybody else?
I don't know.
You're running for city council, so it's similar. What would you think?
I would say,
Now, this is an LD, which is bigger than the city.
yeah, I was gonna say, probably close to probably a couple 100,000, maybe
Okay.
500,000.
Anybody else?
Is it a legislative district senate?
Legislative district, Arizona Senate. It's miles wide and
Like
miles.
LD 26.
Yeah.
How much would it cost? Like,
I'd say not in the millions, but I'd say in the tens of thousands.
Okay. Would you believe somebody actually ran for an Arizona Senate seat in an LD in the West Valley, got 30% of the vote, and only spent $500?
How? Okay.
Okay.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I just
I know
want
I'm
to
not
know how
wrong, so
that happens.
what do you think of that?
Can I have the number for their campaign manager?
Okay, yeah. Then I'm gonna give you something else. His opponent, this person's opponent, who was a sitting office holder, an incumbent.
Mm-hmm.
This was in the primary. Between him and his supporters, PACs, Chamber of Commerce, etc., spent $125,000 to get the other 70%. You understand? So would you, and this is for a $25,000 job. That's all it pays. It's a lousy $25,000 job. I made more than that in 4 months when I worked 20 years ago. Understand? Because I was making good money back a long time ago. I quit
Right.
working I retired at 55. I had a goal and I did. The person that did this is standing here talking to you. I got 5% of the vote, or 30% of the vote with $500. I ran for the Arizona CD8, Congressional District 8, against Trent Franks, who had to resign because of moral issues, right? He spent $250,000 to get 78%? I think it was like that. I spent a grand total of $3,500 to get 32%.
You want to be his campaign manager?
See?
You got him?
But you know why I couldn't, it's not that I didn't have the right issues. You know why I couldn't win? You know why I couldn't win?
Why?
Because I didn't have the money to contact all the idiot voters that just vote by name recognition. They vote by, I got 12 mailers, this must be the person I should vote for. Because when you're doing an LD or even a CD, you don't really do radio or TV or any of that. It's local. So you mail a lot of stuff out.
Council meetings, really.
Yeah, councilman, you can do a couple of newspaper ads.
Yeah.
And some, signs on corners.
As a constitutional preservative. Anyway, so when the Constitution was founded, do you know how many constituents per member of Congress there were?
At that time, no, I don't.
What do you think it is? So,
It's way more than it ought to be now.
Yeah, at that time. It was
Because they can't possibly serve that many people.
30,000.
Yeah, they can't possibly. We should have twice as many congressmen as we have.
They are looking to expand it right now to like 200 or 596.
We should have twice as
Yeah.
many, yeah.
But if we get the same thing we got, it won't matter. See, my point is this, if you want government to change, if you want your government to change, you're gonna have to step up and finance the people that actually run for office. Because if you don't, the only people that finance candidates are the big dark money. And big dark money comes from, whether people like it or not, comes from PACs. Some are socialist PACs, liberal PACs, progressive PACs, or conservative PACs. But it comes from them. Lawyers associations, they give themselves some really screwball names, but they're all full of crap. They really are. What they do is they finance people that have already proven how they'll vote. Not how they'll vote, but how they'll follow orders to vote. Because they follow orders. You have a guy that's in Congress now from over here named Biggs, right?
Biggs, yeah,
Biggs.
Biggs, right? Yes.
Worthless piece of crap. He was a state senator in Arizona.
My brain's
There's a bill called HB 2184. It was House Bill 2184. It passed. It was a good bill on education. It was sent over to the Senate, and the Senate changed the bill to take away constitutional authority from an elected state official and hand it over to an appointed governor's board. We testified in front of this person's committee in the Senate, a number of us did, and explained constitutionally why they couldn't do it. Because you were violating the Arizona Constitution. No law can violate a constitution. You can't do it. You have to change the Constitution. They all listened really well. One said, oh, I don't want to do anything to violate the Constitution, and then voted it out of committee. And then passed it in the Senate, and we got it killed in the House, right? That didn't matter because the governor and the leadership wanted it. So they brought the bill back and renamed it SB 1469, so it'd be a Senate bill, but it was a reconciliation bill, which is a financial bill. Doing the same thing, giving the power to an appointed board. Which the bill was not only illegal, you're not allowed to add a bill like that to a financial bill. That's illegal, but they passed it. And now this man sits in the U.S. House.
I saw a poll somewhere that shows whatever public opinion is on a bill, there's still the same chance of it passing or failing. Like it's
No, it's not public opinion that matters. It's political opinion that matters.
Exactly.
And the politics dictate how a bill is passed or failed. You had John Kyle was a former senator. Everybody thought he was a nice guy. He wasn't. He voted just like John McCain, but he was really quiet about it. John McCain was worthless. The man was worthless. I had a talk show. He'd never come on because he didn't want to be asked questions. You know why some of these politicians seem smart on shows? When they ask a question, they answer it so quick. Do you know why?
It's scripted.
They already know the answer. They know the question. When he was invited to come on our show, his secretary called and said, "Send us the questions. We'll pick the ones we want." I told him, I said, "Don't. You tell him," I said, "Give me the phone." I talked to her. I said, "We don't send you questions." "Well, then we'll send you." I said, "You don't send me questions." He'll get the questions when he gets here, just like everybody else does. "Well, we'll get back to you." When they did, "We're not coming." It's theater. We are suffering from political theater in this country. It's not real. It really isn't. Oh yeah, you're talking about global warming. Some of that's theater too. We both know that. And you could get a lot more done at the local level than you'll ever get at the national. Because the people, quite frankly, even a lot of Democrats I meet, are scared to death of the government. And the government ought to be afraid of us. But they're not. And they're not because they figured out how elections work. Early ballots aren't for our convenience. They're because they've got trained seals that'll vote a certain way and mail it back. Because other people don't have the money to reach the voter to get the vote. Now, don't you think it's astonishing that someone like me, who spends so little money, can actually get 30% of the vote? And I don't know the people that are voting for me. You could ask my wife. We go to a grocery store somewhere. Someone will walk up to me and they'll hear me talking. They'll go, "You're so-and-so because I saw you on TV." I go, "Yeah, I voted for you. I listened to you when you were being interviewed on that debate, and everything you said was true, and I voted for you, and thank you for doing it. And my friends voted for you, and my mother did, and my brother, and da-da-da. All of us voted for you." The people will vote for someone like me because they know I don't give a damn. Because I don't give a damn. I don't care about careers. I don't care about schmoozing people. Donald Trump, I voted for. I supported him. I wish he'd keep his mouth shut at times because he says some things he doesn't know. I sent Corey a bunch of information about, how many of you ever heard of the Mccarran Walters Act? You ever heard of that? You ever heard of that? It was passed back in 1952 by Democrats and Republicans. And Mr. Truman vetoed the bill. And then the Democrats and Republicans overrode his veto, so it became law.
What was the act?
The law clearly states that nobody will be allowed to enter the United States who has any feeling disregard for our type of government, basically.
Okay.
The reason that bill was passed back then, historically, so you know, was because you still had communists and socialists and Nazis running around, and they didn't want them over here. But the ancillary part of that bill also would include Muslims.
Sharia laws.
Because in the Sharia law, they want to overthrow our form of government. So if they would enforce the damn laws we have, this stuff would stop. But we have a bunch of mamby-pamby, spineless people, jellyfish, in office that'll tell you what you want to hear and smile at you. I was told by people when I ran for office, because I honestly ran before against U.S. Senate candidate Mr. Flake in 2012, and didn't do bad. We spent $25,000 on that one, didn't we, dear? We spent $25,000 on that election, but got almost 10% of the vote with $25,000 in a statewide race. Mr. Cardin, who died a few months ago, a year ago now probably, spent $10 million and got 20%. So you think about that. I got 10% for $25,000. He got 20% for $10 million. So he spent $10 million. He spent $5 million to get the same 10% I got for $25,000. So if I'd have had $10 million, who'd have won the race? You see? That's how it works. It's money. So I encourage all of you, politically, if you can find someone worth supporting in a race, no matter where it's at or what level it's in, that you can truly trust. The key word there is trust.
Right.
Not some BSer, but someone that you can trust. Because people told me, "Van, you're a little abrasive when you talk to people. You even tell voters they're stupid." And I said, "No, I don't tell them they're stupid. I said they elected a stupid government. So if you elect a stupid government, what does that make you? Because you put them there." They said, "That's abrasive." I said, "No, it's not." "Yes, it is." I said, "No, it's not." "What the hell would you call it?" I said, "It's called the truth. It's the truth." I said, "If you don't believe it, Try sitting on a piece of wood before it's sanded and slide back and forth. See what you get. It's called splinters. I'm like a piece of sandpaper. You may be a little rough when I start, but you'll be smooth when I'm done. You need to understand how important this is to all of you. Not to me. I have a lot less time in front of me than I do behind me. But I care about this country. I take it seriously. We can fix this country. But America is no longer a moral nation, as some want you to believe it is. A democracy is basically, as they say historically, two wolves and a sheep deciding who's going to have dinner or what they're going to have for dinner. We're a republic. We're not a democracy, never have been, never should be. They'd like to make us a democracy with the popular vote, which would then say California, Washington, Oregon, and the Northeast and Chicago or Illinois are going to decide the futures of all the rest of us. And if you've ever traveled, and I have all over this country, the rest of us don't like what they do there. I was raised in California when it was a great place to grow up. That place is an armpit now because of these stupid policies. And there's Washington and Oregon aren't much better. And I hate to tell you, Colorado's getting there. Illinois is an armpit. New York, my God, what's that mayor want to do? What tax is he going to raise now? That guy's talking about a new tax for something else he wants to do. This is big government out of control. And the only ones that can bring it in control are you. But you can't do it just by going to meetings. Mm-hmm. You've got to speak out. You've got to, when you go to, say, a Republican meeting, an LD or something, don't be afraid to ask questions of these idiots.
What LD do you belong to?
22.
22.
The West Valley. That's Sun City West, Surprise, Glendale, Peoria, Vistantia, that area. Parts of El Mirage and Youngtown. They don't understand. People don't get involved. They don't get connected. They watch too damn much stupid television. They don't listen to people that actually have been there and understand what's going on. We need border security. We need a barrier. We need to, I'd like to see Donald Trump say, okay, from now on, I'm going to have a tariff. I'm going to put a tax, a 30% tax on every Western Union MoneyGram or any gram that goes south. We're going to charge them 30% to send the money back. Or 50%, I don't care, but it needs to be a high number. Because we're sending our wealth away. And we're importing crap. And it is. People don't like it, but it is. We're not getting the best of anybody anywhere, and I know because I've worked in the food business. And I've seen companies screw illegals. They'd work for 40 hours, they'd hand them a check, they were supposed to be making $8 an hour, they handed them a check, right, for $100. And if they didn't take it, they'd call it an agency on them and years ago and have them deported. And they knew it, so they took the money and shut up. These are businesses that did this.
Okay, so I definitely completely agree with a couple of points I want to go back to. One of them as far as why people don't get involved and why they don't contact elected officials. This is a survey done from the Yale Program of Climate Change Communication, so it's some audience, but these are the top 10 reasons.
Why?
What do you take your guess? What do you think is the top reason people don't?
I know why I don't talk. Well, I do talk to them though.
Okay, well, why do you think the general public doesn't contact?
They don't believe it does any good.
Doesn't do any good. Would it make a difference? Number 3. You're on the board with number 3.
Lack of information
Lack of information.
of who the politicians are to even contact.
I know people that don't even know who their politicians
Don't
are.
know who to contact. Don't know who to contact. Number 4.
It's a big secret. They don't want them to know who to contact.
Yeah.
Okay, what is number one? Just say what number one is.
So number 1, nobody asked me to. But it goes
You
back
gotta be
to
motivated.
That's not true.
That's crazy.
You see, I used to ask people on my radio show, and I spoke at events with 500, 1,000, 3,000 people at them. I'd ask them, and I'd had any literature there to hand them, to tell them exactly who to contact. People don't want to contact anybody because we've raised a couple generations now of non-confrontational idiots. Don't say anything, you might offend that person. Safe, they call it, what do they call them in college? That's it.
Snowflakes?
My God, are you out of your mind?
The freaking pass.
These children are never going to learn how to, okay, I'll put it to you like this. Kindergarten through 12th grade, I dropped out of high school 2 weeks before I had graduated because I got a better job than my teacher had. I went back later and did get my diploma. Today, because of what they've done, one of the businesses I started, I couldn't even start today because of all the rules and regulations. It would have cost me $250,000 to start the same business I started for $2,000 back in the 70s. Why is that? That's government. That's
Big
big
business.
government, out of control government, the EPA, Small Business Administration, and all the rest of those unconstitutional, these people are crazy. You've got 4 departments of government that are even allowed constitutionally. 4. You know what they are?
4 branches of government?
4 branches. Not 4 branches. No, I'm talking about departments. There are only 4 departments in the executive branch that are even allowed. What are they?
I know a lot of they expanded in the,
No, what are they?
I don't know. the
Department
original
Defense.
for it, but I know it's not the EPA, I know it's not.
No, you're right there. Treasury, Attorney General, Secretary of State, and back then it was Department of War, but that's Department of Defense. That's it. Interior, HUD, all the rest of it is states. Education, the federal government's not supposed to be involved in. That's a state issue, and it's a local issue. And for the federal government to come into Arizona, or Iowa, or California, and tell me how to educate my kid, who the hell do you think you are? You're nobody. I've told Governor Ducey and I told Governor Brewer, they're complaining about the gas tax, right? They got to send this money to Washington. I said, they don't get the money back, all of it. I said, here's a simple solution. They go, what's that? I said, let's say you get 20 cents a gallon for tax, right? She goes, yeah. I said, and 7 cents is the states, right? She goes, yeah. I said, okay, what's 7 from 20? 13. I said, that's what you send them back. And let them sue you for the 7 cents you keep that's yours anyway. Make an issue of it. And I talked to Tom Horn, the Attorney General. He said he'd love to take it to the Supreme Court because they'd win. And Tom Horn won 2 or 3 cases in the Supreme Court. But the Republican Party had someone run against him to get him out of office because he wouldn't do what he was told.
So,
Democrats don't do that too much because everybody does what they're told.
but where also I agree with is about how local politics matter, because that's where people could feel that you may have been telling people, yeah, contact your elected official when you're out the other. That's why they felt like no one asked them before, because they don't understand their city council.
They don't understand because they're not taught. When I was in school, we had civics, we had government, we had history. We were taught that from the time I was 6 until I was out of high school. You never had a year where you didn't have these classes. And it wasn't like one class, you had doubles. First semester, second semester, first semester, second semester. You had to take it all the time. You knew what was going on. Today, you got things they don't even teach you anymore.
They censor
And a lot of what they
it.
teach you isn't true.
They censor it. They censor it. You go to history class or civics. In high school, there was civics and government. 1 semester is civics. I remember one semester was. I remember which one was.
By the way, the Republican Party does not believe in separation of church and state. There's nothing in the Constitution that talks about separating church and state. It only says that the government will not establish a church, a form of religion.
Well, that was a treaty that Adams drafted with.
I know, but my point is, you can't separate. You can't say the government says it's not true.
Technically, it also only applies to the federal government if you look at the actual text.
I know that, but it also says, I don't know too many state governments that want to create a religion. The only reason the Pilgrims came over here was to escape the religion of Europe. They were told you have to go to this church.
It was also a way of keeping the colonies together because you have so many diverse different religions in Delaware, Pennsylvania, the Quakers, and the Catholics in Maryland. They had to have worked together, and you had to have a separation of church and state because you didn't want one sect to dominate the other.
Yeah, but where did our revolution start? The American Revolution, where did it start? I'm not talking about Lexington. I'm talking about way before that. Where did it start? Do you know?
Boston.
No. Do you know?
I was gonna say the same thing as him.
Okay,
So.
do you know?
I know
You're
it
running for
wasn't-
government, come on.
I know it wasn't Massachusetts.
Nope.
Sorry.
Do you know?
I mean, the 13 colonies had to unite
Nope.
to fight.
Do you know?
I was gonna say.
Philadelphia.
No, I thought it was the
Yeah.
Boston.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the question that I want to ask
Okay.
them.
Do you know?
You're killing us.
It started in the pulpits of the churches.
Ah.
They were called the black robes. Ministers wore black robes then. And off the pulpits, they preached freedom. We need freedom. And they were preaching against the king. And from that, the spark rose to all these so-called intelligent ones, George and Tom and the rest of them, to form the government and to start a revolution. And then you had what you called at that time the Black Robe Brigades. It was a brigade, you know, so many men are in a brigade. They called them the Black Robe Brigades because the leader of each brigade was a minister. Yeah, they were ministers. Our revolution started in the church. And I submit to you, if the church would get off its ass today, we could have another one. A real one. Not a maybe hopefully not this kind, but the kind where the moral values would come back to life. Because this country when it's killing millions of children of its own. And they're saying it's a woman's right to do it. Well, you know what? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was at one time the pursuit of property, but they changed it because blacks were property then. It begins with life. You have a right to life. No one has a right to take that from you. They've now proven scientifically, haven't they, that a child is alive from conception. So that's a life. And you can be tried if you murder a pregnant woman for 2 murders. Now, how can you be tried? Yeah.
Or fined by the EPA for killing an endangered species as an egg.
So how can you be, I don't care about those people, how can you be tried for killing an infant inside the womb when it's okay to kill that same child? You wonder why people have no value of life in a lot of the areas we live in this country? You wonder why so many black kids are killed every day in the streets in Chicago and other cities? Abortion there. Who's ever heard, what was that woman's name that founded Planned Parenthood?
Margaret Sanger.
You know what Margaret Sanger said? You know one of her founding statements was for abortion? Want to hear it?
Yes.
And you can look it up. It's on the internet. It's true there.
No, I know. Yeah.
She said out of her mouth, the best way to control the black population is with abortion. The woman was a bigot and a racist and a hate monger. That's who she was.
I actually got in trouble recently for quoting her.
Yeah. You understand? That's who she, a Democrat. That's who she was. A model for the Clintons, as was Alinsky. Saul Alinsky, another model for the Clintons. Mrs. Clinton, this is what I think is funny. She got fired from her very first job in the House as a lawyer on a congressional, right? You know what she got fired for? You know why they fired her?
Sanger?
No. Oh. You know why she fired that woman?
I'm sorry.
You know why they fired her?
to do it. I'm sorry.
They fired her for something people believe she does now. Lied. The woman is a consummate liar. There's a scripture in the Bible that says, it's very clear, it's 1 Corinthians chapter 6. They won't let you preach this off of pulpits anymore. They'll pull your, what do they call it? Your tax deduction away from your 501c3s. In the Bible it says a person who practices sin, or evil people, wicked people, will not inherit the kingdom of God. Now, I understand you have to be a Christian to believe this stuff. You have to believe there is a God, He created stuff. But, and then it goes on to say the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God. In other words, they're not going to get there, right? And then it goes on to tell you who these people are. Murderers, fornicators, adulterers, liars, effeminate, it just goes on and on and on. But if you preach that off a pulpit, they can actually take away your tax deduction, which the IRS can't do. But it wrote a rule that it would. But if they enforce the rule, what does it violate? Your First Amendment. The right to freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom to assemble. So the IRS is now passing laws telling you they will hinder your freedom of speech, and people are telling me we don't have something to be afraid of here? Donald Trump is just hitting the very surface of this. He had a campaign manager named Cory. Remember him?
Cory Booker.
Yeah, Cory. Yeah.
I sent Cory a whole lot of information about certain things, and Donald Trump did use it. I'm sure I never got any credit for it, but it got used within 3 days. So, he was not talking about these things until I said, Cory, you ought to open up this part and this part. If you put it in all of a sudden, I remember my wife said, look what he's talking about. And I said, yeah, I said, because I had communication with Cory. I have communication with a lot of people don't realize, but it's fun. All right?
That's the same.
But we have to arm ourselves with not being afraid, like that flag you wore. All right, that banner. My wife wore a T-shirt to California, went to a little thing with a friend of hers, what was that thing called?
Karaoke.
Yeah, it was a Trump 2020 shirt or something like that. What did they say to you? What did they say to you?
Well, they were playing that song that
Trump's theme song.
Theme song.
You always get what you want.
And the guy was singing it, and I thought, well, this ought to be friendly because I was wearing a Trump shirt, right? And that was his theme song. So I stood up, these seniors, and I said, wow, that's Trump's, that's good. It's a Trump song, and I'm happy to be here. And he said, and he was just telling me that, I'm not a Christian, I'm of the devil or whatever. And the woman in the back said, let's get some tomatoes.
Now, these are Democrats.
And they're,
she didn't do anything. She didn't
what?
threaten them. She wore a T-shirt.
So
Is this America? You see, I'll tell you
Apparently
something
so.
about freedom of speech. I'll tell you something about freedom of speech so you all understand what it really is.
It doesn't, you can't put that on him.
If you're afraid to speak,
I
no.
don't think you would be
If you are afraid to speak,
We smoke
all right,
guacamole.
afraid, then you've lost your freedom. You've given it away. And as our founders said at one time, anybody who will give away some of their freedom for a little bit of security, soon will have neither. When you let your government control your life, whether it's global warming or where you put a tree in your yard or whatever it is, it's tyranny. It is tyranny. Every issue we have, I don't know anybody I've ever met, Iowa, California, Idaho, other states I've traveled, that want dirty water in their own state, or that want crap all over their highways. I've never met someone like that. And yet the federal government tells us we'd all be total bums if they didn't control how we ran our states. I submit this: if we ran our states ourselves, and our forests and our lands, which the federal government has no right to have any land in our state at all, not an acre. They were amended, what was it, 13 acres or something, I forget, for arsenals only. If they want an arsenal in Arizona, and you know how they have to get it? They have to come into Arizona, submit a request, and if we say no, they can't build it here. The federal government has no right to be in our state. The federal government has no right to have a national park system. The federal government took land from our state and others to build it up. It could be a state park, but not a federal park. That's where we're screwed up here. The sovereignty of our states is being handed over to the government. Yes, sir.
I just want to point out that Arizona also has the top-ranked state forestry department.
Yeah, but the state forestry department in this state sucks. Because, yeah, I'm going to give you an example. How many people know how to farm? Okay, let me ask you a question. An acre, you can plant so many soybeans, so much corn, so much wheat on an acre. All right? If you plant 20% more there than you're going to get, than you normally got, you're going to not get any more crops. It's actually going to be smaller corn, smaller soybeans, or smaller, because the ground will only allow so much. It can only feed so much, right? We have the same problem in our forests. Each tree consumes a certain amount of water. Every tree does. If you really want to raise the water table in Arizona up, start getting rid of a lot of the bad trees and the overplanted trees and the non-harvested trees, and the water table will rise, your forests will be healthier, and you'll have less fires. But our forestry department, National Forestry Department, won't let us do that.
That's why California wouldn't stop being on fire even for 5 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's why Arizona wouldn't have had that big fire we had here a couple of years ago. We lost those guys.
Clair burning would take care of it.
If it was run properly. Our forests are mismanaged by the federal government. That they're not even allowed to manage at all. If we could get the states to stand up. But the only way that's going to happen is if young people start understanding what their rights are and what the limitations of the federal government is. Washington was only given enough land for Washington, D.C. Anything else they wanted, they had to ask permission for. And don't you ever wondered why everything east of the Mississippi almost is totally state controlled, and everything west of the Mississippi is 75% controlled by the federal government? Land-wise?
Why is
We could
that?
go over this. There's a thing called payments.
So let's take a few minutes for questions.
Yeah.
And then we can wrap
Yeah,
up.
go ahead.
So guys, any questions you want to ask? Now's the time to do it.
Okay.
I have a question, but it's kind of both of your things.
No, it's not his, it's mine.
Well, no, it's,
No, it's mine. He had his time.
well, no, I'm gonna,
Not, it's mine. Go ahead.
well, then I'm not gonna ask it, and I think it's actually kind of rude of you to shut me down for my questions.
No, I'm the one that's answering the question. He had his, I have mine.
Well,
Ask me my part of it.
I'm listening.
He's listening to it. He can talk to you after it's over. Go ahead.
I think you're rude. I think it's rude of you to do that.
It's
I think
not.
it's actually relevant. I want Roy to bring up something that you said, and I wanted to tie it into what you were talking about with
So-
Democrats.
So here's the thing, this is about College Republicans United. It is an open forum, open dialogue,
Yeah.
so she can ask the room a general question and we can go back and
I
forth.
think it's an interesting point.
Well, ask a question.
Okay? So you were talking about the border situation
Yeah.
and asking questions of the man over there and all of us. So what I do find curious that we don't bring up as a legitimate talking point is if it, you know, now we seem to be so separated on both sides, which I hate, but it is kind of like that. the side that typically will talk about climate change and drought and the things you discussed would be the Democrats, right, liberal side. But they're also the side that is for open borders, fight securing the border. And we don't talk enough about, I think, ask the question of how can you possibly, if you have a totally open border with so many thousands of people come in that are going to consume your resources and your water that you say is so limited, and pollution and garbage,
Okay.
how do you mend that?
You don't.
Or how is that?
So that's similar to the question that I asked about having the same standard of living, but having the population size of China, 1 billion people in the United States. It's not sustainable.
We could only support so much like land, like I just said about forests or corn or soybeans, or even cattle. You can only put so many cattle on so many acres to feed a cow. You need so many acres to feed one cow. One cow. Just one. Just like deer, antelope, buffalo, they roam all over. How many people in this room even realize that, you know what the Great Plains are? Nebraska. You know why they were called that? You know why? They had no damn trees. There was nothing there. Do you know we have more trees in America now than we had when the Pilgrims landed here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not less, more. Because look at Arizona, right? Do you think there were these trees here 100 years ago?
No.
In the Midwest, there were none. My family's from there. Every farmer planted trees because they had a lot of wind there, planted trees in groves so they had windbreaks for their buildings and their animals. But they planted them. They didn't come there. There were none. And there were none because the buffalo trampled every damn thing. Everything. But you'll never get a socialist to discuss freedom, ever. They don't like freedom. They like big government, government control, government agencies. Governments know better than we do.
But I would like to get your response to that too.
Yeah. So why I'm here and what I really appreciate about having this civil dialogue, the origin of how it's breaking down about how many people actually contact their elected official and why local politics matter, and completely agreeing, like bringing up how there's 30,000 constituents for congressmen, and I completely commend you for running a campaign without dirty money. What I think we have to get to is having civil dialogue to be able to see each other and not villainize the other side. And this way we could be able to realize there's no black and white issue as far as the question specifically on border security. Realizing when we try to imagine villainize the other side instead of having a debate, we can be able to find our common ground.
Let me explain something. I said what I said because illegals impede on my rights.
Yeah,
and let me finish. And socialists allow them to do it.
Well, so
And I told you earlier, as I told everybody, when you want to take away my God-granted rights, and that's what the Constitution says they are, because no man would give you the rights we've got. I don't consider you a nice person. I don't consider you a good person. I don't consider you the other side. I just think you're evil, period. Just like if you broke in my home and tried to steal something from me, I'd blow your brains out. It's really very simple for me. And people need to understand, Donald Trump ran and said things about people. I mean, he made comments about George Bush being no energy and whatever. All I ever said about Jeff Flake was he was a liar. And he was and still is. I even have him on tape where he admitted being a liar on the Lou Dobbs show. He admitted he lied. Everybody I've ever dealt with in politics, the guy that ran against for the Senate, Trent Franks, I ran against for the House, every one of those people lied. They lied over and over and over and over again. So from where I'm at factually, if you practice, let me see, if you're drunk every day, what are you?
A drunk.
A drunk. So if you lie every day, what are you?
A liar.
A liar. Well, if you're a liar, there's somewhere you're not going at this point unless you change. So to me, if you're a liar, fornicator, murderer, hater, robber, thief, you're evil. You're not good. Trust, I worked on Hollywood Boulevard, remember, with drug addicts, prostitutes, runaways, Skid Row with just drunks, and down in Mexico, and I held people in my arms. I love these people. I really did, and helped them.
To fix the system, what's your thoughts on outlawing dirty money in Arizona? The outlaw dirty money?
We wouldn't have to outlaw dirty money if voters would stop voting for the people that they fund it with. You understand? Because they don't think the Chamber of Commerce is dirty. The Chamber of Commerce, how could that be dirty? Right? The people for political freedom, Americans for liberty, most of which are not even free-thinking people. I love it how the socialists come up with some of these names to make themselves sound like they're George Washington. Unfortunately, Republicans never come up with any unique names. But that's what goes on. And if you tell the truth,
Patriot Act.
directly tell the truth to people, you're either abrasive, unkind, what's the other words they've used? A number of them.
Yeah.
See, for me, I'm either Donald Trump has said things I said 6 years ago. I ran against Jeff Flake, and when I listened to Donald Trump, I thought he read my speeches. I'm telling the truth, because all I talked about was illegal immigration, securing the border, fixing Social Security, fixing our education, fixing this and fixing other things, and I had a plan for everyone, because I ran businesses. I used to get hired to go into companies and fix them, and I did. I took a company from $3 million a year and put it up to $25 million a year in 2 years, because there were things that were broken. We have a society we can fix, but these young people are going to have to be the fixers. Because the older generation, some of which are just too damn tired, and others, unfortunately, that I run into now, a lot of Democrats I run into, are hateful. They find out you're a Republican, and I had one do something to me again. I've had them say things to me that if I wasn't doing something, because I'm out getting some political things done, if I wasn't doing that and hindered by that, I'd jack them up a wall.
We have to build relationships, be able to see what we have in common, being able to...
I have freedom. That's all I care about. My freedom and my liberty. If you have something in common with that, we could build something. But if you want to do anything that takes any of that away from me, we'll never build anything. And if you want to do anything, don't do it at the national level, do it at the local level. Have respect for the way our country was set up. Local, up. And this part, that's supposed to be the smallest, has gotten to be the biggest. They're supposed to defend our borders, secure our monies, fight for that, and do treaties. That's it.
So what are your thoughts on specifically APS?
This is the last question, by the way.
What?
APS.
APS is, if you really look at it, it was given the ability to operate years ago when we first became a state that guaranteed it a profit. Now, I could understand it when it was in its infancy because there weren't a lot of people here and you needed to have money to stay in business. So it was kind of a subsidy, if you really want to look at it. They don't need that anymore, and it ought to be taken back. And I've said that to our legislators and our governor and to a lot of other people, and I've testified against EBCOR and their crap, but politicians don't listen to people. They listen to donors.
We agree even more.
Huh?
We agree even more. You know what APS stands for?
Huh?
You know what APS stands for?
Power. Oh, wait a minute. What do you think it stands for?
Piece of shit.
Piece of shit.
I was waiting. I'm like, is he going to give the real thing or
By the
something
way,
sarcastically?
By the way, that is my website. And you can't see those three little bars up there at the top right?
Uh-huh.
There's all kinds of blogs, systems, issues, if you care to look. It's
Wait.
just called vanscrossroads.com.
Okay, I may want to look that up one time.
Okay.
That's easy. Okay.
Yeah, there, see all that?
We'll put the website on our
In fact,
Facebook
there's
page.
even, let me see, is it on there? Yeah, radio.
Yeah,
I've
do
got
that.
radio shows, there's probably 80 or 90 of them on there.
Awesome.
Because once in a while, I'll still do one on the internet.
Oh, do you still
If
do
I feel
some?
like, if somebody really pisses me off, I'll do one.
No, that's fine. Yo.
It's right now, Jennifer.
You know,
Well,
anyway,
I like
I've
listening
enjoyed
to,
it.
Yeah,
like,
well,
angry
thank you for
people rant
coming. We
sometimes,
appreciate
no matter
it.
what side it is.
One thing about CRU is we are always open, an open forum for people to come in at the last minute to make an announcement or to give a little talk for the last few minutes. Could you come up here and introduce yourself?
Hello.
Excuse me.
All right, so I am Laura DeLuca, and you shall know my name. I love you, by the way.
Wait,
I
me?
need you to run for office. I already decided.
Okay.
You need
been
to run for
drafted.
city council too.
I don't know if I can
Come
do
on.
that, but.
Come on, we'll help you. So I want to be quick because you guys have been here for a long time. So like, who is this crazy woman in the back? I'm just a crazy woman in the back, I guess.
We profiled you. We thought you were a girl when you walked in.
So I live right in Tempe, pretty close to university. I'm an ASU alumni. And I feel really sick about what I see in college in K through 12. I think probably at one point in my life, I would have been in your department with my whole gargantuan zoo of rescue animals, with my organic food, my vegetarianism, and my freaking bumper sticker on my car, probably with some Earth globe. Shop at Whole Foods, go to all the local places, all the vegan. I do it all. I don't use chemicals in my house. I am someone that you would think would be in your group. But as I started researching stuff, I realized the bigger picture of what was going on. And I'm really sickened by the fact that you're using, not you, but that whole sustainability thing has been used by the Communist Party for generations, and you are doing it to recruit young people into communism. And I'm not going to talk forever because it's not my thing, and I'm here for only a specific point on Prop 418. But that is what's going on, because if it wasn't your group in sustainability, would not be having Angela Davis come and talk. You would not be having Black Lives Matter. That tells me there's a political agenda, and when I really look into it, it's communist. I think most people are in there because they want clean water, they think it's fun, they believe in it, they believe in the earth, animals, veganism. And I am a fighter for animal rights till the end. I fight like crazy. I go to Green Restaurant every Thanksgiving. So I am a stereotypical liberal, but I'm not. So enough of that. But I'm not personally going after you because you probably think you're doing the right thing. Okay, Prop 418 was put in Tempe at the initiation of Lauren Kuby out of your department.
Miss Kuby,
Yes, Miss Kuby, who
I'm
goes
familiar
around in
with
her
her.
garden hat and is one of you who helps the earth and the animals and everything else, and is a full-on, full-fledged communist behind the scenes. And what I have seen this council do with 418 and what they're doing to Colby Granville is disgusting to me. And I'm going to be fighting them again, like I fight them all the time this week. But all of you students need to know what 418 is, because they're going to start spreading 418 to every city through Local Progress, those organizations that you guys support, which are communist-run organizations. 418 passed at over 70% in Tempe. It passed on a landslide, even though Lori was out there with my little postcards, knocking on doors. It was written beautifully. No one in their right mind reading that would vote against it. And here's what it did. So originally, the Tempe Charter stated, if a council member committed a crime and was found guilty in a court of law of that crime, they could be forfeited office, okay? You rob a bank, you go to court, you
DUI.
get in trouble, you can be forfeit office. They changed it. They took out the word convicted. And what it now says is, what it now does is allow the city council to be their own kangaroo court. So they took out convicted, they used the word moral turpitude. And I wish I should have brought it with me, that was poor planning on my part, I apologize. So basically it says if someone's fraud or corruption, and it's so bad that I don't have the wording, it really is, then they can be voted off council, okay, by 5 to whatever it is, 5 to 2 or however. But what it really did is it took the courts out and allowed them to be their own court, all right? We knew they were going after one council member, Colby Granville. We knew